Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lawn Care CEO podcast, where lawn care guys learn to become leaders. My name is Dan Ralston, I'm the head coach of the Lawn Care CEO. And on today's episode, we're going to teach you how to turn yourself into that guy, the one where everything kind of just works out for that person. The one that seems to make this all look easy. And by the way, we're going to teach you something called the Baader-Meinhof phenomena. So welcome to the Lawn Care CEO. Today, special shout out to Brian with Grounds Guys Myers Park. Just repping the Grounds Guys hat today. Special shout out to Brian. And by the way, our special guest today is Miranda Dana. Miranda is one of our coaches here at the Lawn Care CEO and is just a phenomenal leader and thinker. And the reason we invited her in on this topic is because Miranda has really impacted my mindset and the way that I approach my life. She probably doesn't even know that, but like, she's a great coach of mindset. And how do we edit the me? How do we edit this guy? And so, Miranda, welcome to the podcast.
Man, thank you so much, Dan. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start off today with a story. I feel like, by the way, when we talk about the mindset stuff, Miranda, to be honest, I feel like this is the stuff that a lot of guys want to tune out because they want to talk about equipment, or they want to talk about marketing, they want to talk about sales, they want to talk about like the nitty gritty of the business. And all of that is important, and we will talk about it on future podcasts. But the very foundation, the beginning, is is the person that is the leader. Like the leader, like I remember I was walking around at a conference and it was always, I would ask, so what's the bottleneck? And a lot of the business owners understood this kind of underlying phenomena, which is I'm the bottleneck. I'm the one getting in the way. And if somehow I can figure out and fix the me, then that's going to open up the doors for everything else. And that's kind of what we're want to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes not the, sexiest conversation to have when you're talking about business, because it's not as tactical, or it doesn't seem as tactical. Yeah. Right. So it's sometimes when I talk about this stuff, people look at me like, land the plane, Miranda. Yeah. Like, come on. Just bring it back down to earth.
Can we just get to some practical action I can take?
Yeah, like go put your crystals back out in the moonlight and, like, leave me alone. And it is also often when you figure out the mindset game, when you figure out how to shift, like that's the biggest flex. It really is, to be the kind of person who's like, well, I used to think that way, and now I have transformed myself. Now I see things in this other way. Mm-hmm. I mean, once you figure out you can do that one time, you can do it over and over again. It's huge.
And it does become kind of the ultimate superpower when it comes to leading a business, is if I can edit who I am and the way that I think about things, then I can turn myself into anyone I want to be. All right. So I'll kick off with a quick story. It's not even really a story, but I had my kids come in one day, and they were 5 or 6 or 7, and they said, "Hey, Dad, I want to show you an optimal illusion," when they meant to say optical illusion, right? And ever since then, I've been really fascinated with that phrase, which is the optimal illusion. One of the phenomena of life is that we don't see everything clearly. We kind of make up stories in our head about what's going on in the world around us. We read in meaning where there is none, and sometimes we overlook things that are meaningful. And in many ways, we create a bit of an illusion in our minds of what's going on in the world around us. And for some of us, that illusion that we craft in our minds is suboptimal. It's not the optimal illusion. I'm always like, if we're going to lie to ourselves about something, we might as well lie about something that's going to be helpful and move us in the direction of something that is good. And so today, I don't know how much accuracy there is in the mindsets that we're going to portray today, meaning I don't know if it's factual, but what I am going to suggest is that the mindsets we're going to share with you today are optimal. If what optimal is driving towards is entrepreneurial success. I just really, really believe it because we've seen so many case studies over and over and over again of people who have this mindset we're going to try to articulate today, and it's consistent with all those who are successful. So that's what we're going to try to talk about today. And I think a great way to think about this phenomena that happens where we're like, hey, we see the world based on this our own filters, and we see it differently, is the Bader-Meinhof. Is that how you say it, Miranda? You taught me this just a minute ago. Bader-Meinhof phenomena.
That's right. There is actually there is some science behind this, right? Called I think it's pronounced the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. And it's basically two parts, where one is your brain, you can only filter in so much information at one time. We all know that. And your brain actively filters your surroundings for the object of interest, like what it is that you're trying to figure out, or if you're just trying to find. So this is the idea of, hey, I'm thinking about buying a car and I'm looking at Jeeps, and now everywhere I look, there's a Jeep. Do you know how many people are driving a Jeep these days? I didn't even know, right? Like all of a sudden you see all the Jeeps. So it's like your attention is selective. And then it's that coupled with the confirmation bias. Like once you notice that there are way more Jeeps in the world than you were paying attention to before, you interpret that as a sign, right? You like read that as more meaningful data, essentially. It's like, oh, they're everywhere. They must be a great car to have. Everybody loves these.
So there was a business leader out of Australia that taught me this, actually. His name was Kerwin Ray. And Kerwin taught me this idea. He said, basically our brains are encountering billions of data points I can't remember. There's actually a factor on this. It's like in the billions of data points within any given period of time. But our brains are only able to interpret a very small amount of data points. And so the question becomes, which data points are we interpreting? Well, this is where if I'm understanding right, this is where the Bader-Meinhof phenomena comes in. It says, based on the way that what I'm thinking about, what's on my mind. I just bought a new car. I just bought a new Jeep. Now I'm thinking about Jeeps. Therefore, my brain is going to see all the Jeeps that weren't there before. Well, the truth is they were there the whole time. They were there the whole time, and yet my brain could only filter in or take in a very limited amount of information. And so this is something that should be wildly interesting to us, which is, if my brain can only take in so many data points based on my filtering system, what data points should I be taking in, and which ones should I be maybe avoiding or not taking in so that I can get the optimal illusion?
It's great.
Right?
For sure. Absolutely. It's also, as a coach, you look in on so many different businesses throughout a day, throughout a week, throughout a lifetime. And how do you discern what the most important data points are there? It's sort of like looking at a KPI scorecard if you think about it, right? It's more like the mental part of that. Like what bits of information do I actually need to focus on or pay attention to? Yeah.
And why is it that some bits of information, some illusions we create for ourselves, because we'll never get the full picture? Why is it that some bits of information are more helpful than others? So what I'm hoping to do today, Miranda, in our podcast is to really talk through, because you've been around hundreds, is that fair to say? Hundreds of $1 million plus entrepreneurs.
Sure.
I've had very similar experiences as you, and we've hung out with people across industries. Now we spend a lot of time with lawn care guys. And we were chatting before the call, and we were like, there's a lot of commonalities. There's some things that most of them possess there's a lot of differences in these folks.
That's true.
But there are some things that seem to be like the entrepreneurial mojo that makes them successful.
Absolutely. I think I'm having a moment where I remember certain discovery calls, right? Our version of like a sales call that we do at Lawn Care CEOs, get on a call with someone. It's like we don't even sell them, really. It's just, tell me about your business, right? What do you got going on? How can we help you? Let's see if we can make a difference for you. Yeah. Can we help? And on those calls, we ask a lot of questions about the business. I want to know about the business, certainly. What are you doing? How big is it? How many team members? All that stuff. And the other thing that's bubbling beneath the surface of all that is we're doing a bit of an assessment.
We're judging you. Like nobody's going to want to call now.
Can we tell them that? Yeah. Can we tell them that? Or is like, there's also a bit of we're doing an assessment of like, can I work with this person? Do they have the things? And those things are often less tangible. But if I had to, if I forced you to tell me, Dad, what those check marks are that you're looking for in somebody that you would want to work with, I bet you it's close to this list.
Yeah, it's 100% this list. But for the record, we'll work with you if you don't have this list yet. Part of our goal is to help you get to this list, though, and that's why we're having this podcast.
That's right.
All right, so let's start the list. Item number 1. Belief or mindset number 1 that we think is universal, nearly universal amongst all successful entrepreneurs. And don't judge me as a West Coast guy too much on this, but they are positive. There's like this indomitable positivity where when they look out into the world, they're more likely to see the good than they are the bad. They're more likely to believe that things are going to be great than things are not going to be great. And there's a general just energy of, I don't know, happiness, optimism, positivity. I don't know what you'd call it, but generally it's like, man, everything's going to work out. So I actually, Miranda, had a good friend of mine who embodied this. He eventually went on to become basically, I think, a senator equivalent in Canada. He was from Alberta, Canada, and this was his mantra. He'd always be like, Dan, don't worry, it always works out for Jimmy Boy. It always works out for Jimmy Boy. It always works out for Jimmy Boy. And he said it over and over and over and over and over again. And sure enough, right, went on to have a very successful life with just by saying over and over again, it always works out for Jimmy Boy. It always works out for Jimmy Boy. And I think that's true of most. I think
you're right. I think you're right. And it's also a bit like, did everything always, all the time work out for Jimmy Boy? Probably not.
Like I could tell you the rest of the story. And it's the fact is that he ended up with this major disease. I mean, he had a hard life, but in some ways, but in the end, if you would have asked him what he saw in his life, he would have said, I see all good.
Amazing. And ultimately that's what he experienced. So that was what was true in his life. Even if with an outsider's perspective, you could have listed all of the things that went wrong, he experienced it as everything works out for me.
I had this happen to me the other day. I had somebody, the question came up, who do you know who's been through a lot, who's had a hard life? And somebody was like, Dan has had a hard life. And I was like, what? I've had the cushiest, easiest life ever. He's like, well, and then he was like, well, you lost your mom, you lost your brother, and started going down the list of things. But for whatever, and those things were hard, they were bad. But because my general optimistic attitude, I don't know, they weren't prominent in my life. What I saw in my life was the good. Again, out of the billions of data points of memories in my life, because my attitude was generally, hey, I believe that things usually work out for Danny Boy over here. I didn't see all of those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And to bring it back to business, right? You have a business owner in front of you who is in a place they have to make a decision. Or honestly, the reason that the business got started in the first place is typically like, I believe I can. Some version of that, like just thinking you can do it, thinking things are going to work out for you, being willing to lob the idea up there in the air and go chase it down. And nobody starts a business from a place of thinking this isn't going to work out well. This is going to be a train wreck. Nobody starts a business that way. You always have this sense of optimism, and then things come along the path that show you otherwise. And then what? This is a great case for how your mindset can change, because sometimes business owners get put down a path where they shift out of that positivity. They get to a place where like, man, everything sucks. People are terrible. Nobody wants to
as
work.
one of my entrepreneurs put it, they said, basically owning a small business, owning a lawn care business is just getting kicked in the nuts over and over and over and over again.
Totally. There you go.
And I was like, well, if that's the way you're looking at it, that's how it's going to seem.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That's exactly what it is in your experience. Your illusion is that. And my illusion is very different than that. My belief, now, the reality is the same, but my view of reality changes based on my perspective.
That's it. And when you get back to that place of positivity is the way that you actually start to build the kind of business that entrepreneurs are excited about. Yeah. Now they go back to that place of like, yeah, this is great. Love this thing. It's a mess today, right? There's a fire in front of me, but I'm going to go do it. Here we go. I don't know, Miranda, but let's go.
Isn't this great? Isn't this great?
Yeah.
It always works out for Jimmy Boy. So
good.
And one of the things, I don't know how to put this, but one of the things that I think that, like, this is why, for example, we always start meetings with a positive focus. So this is a tradition in our business. I don't know if we've taught it on this podcast before, but at the very beginning of every one of our meetings, from here until forever, we always start with what we call our positive focus. And a positive focus is simply saying one thing you're feeling excited about or happy about. It's looking for the good in life and acknowledging the good in life. It's kind of a gratitude moment, be another way of saying it. We start every meeting that way. The reason I do this is because there's really good brain science that when we're in a positive mindset, our brains are more open, they're more creative, they make better decisions, versus when our mindsets are focusing on the negative, that our brain chemistry actually retracts and we literally don't have as much mental capacity because we're kind of entering more towards the fight and flight mindset. So for me, it's a strategic advantage to have everyone in the meeting enter the meeting with a dose of positivity at the beginning of that meeting, because all of a sudden we're more confident, we're more positive, we're less likely to have unhealthy conflict. And we also kind of look at the world as, things generally work out in the end.
So good. Sometimes the phrases you use, you don't even notice, but that's the way to capture it, which is you realize that positivity gives you the strategic advantage.
It's the optimal illusion.
It's the optimal illusion.
All right.
That's right.
So number one is positivity. Number two, the second idea that I think is consistent amongst those entrepreneurs that we work with that we've seen be successful is something that was articulated by Jim Collins. And Jim Collins called it disciplined optimism. And he taught it through a story of Admiral Jim Stockdale. And I probably should have researched this before the podcast, but Stockdale was he was a prisoner of war during a war. I don't remember which one. I think it was either Korean or Vietnam. So he was in Korea. I think he was in the Korean war camp. So we're going to pretend that's true.
That's got to be it. It
always works out for Danny Boy. So at the end of the day, right? So he's in this war camp, and he was the highest ranking survivor of the war camps. And he was asked kind of after the fact after he's been home for a while, what made the difference? How did you survive this prison camp? And he goes, it's interesting. He said, do you know who died first? He said it was the optimists. The optimists went first. It was the people who would say, oh, we'll be out by Christmas. Oh, we'll be out by Easter. We'll be out by the 4th of July. And those dates came and went, and they eventually just gave up hope because it wasn't going to work. Well, if the optimists died first, who died next? He said, well, the pessimists died next, the ones who said, we're never getting out of here, right? Another nod to positivity, right? So if the optimists died and the pessimists died, who was left? He said it was those who had what he called discipline optimism. And discipline optimism is this belief that regardless of what the circumstances are now, and with a willingness to confront what he calls the brutal facts.
That's great.
Like, not Pollyannish, not pretending that the business isn't on fire, But being able to look at this mess of a business with ashes and dust and blood, and then be able to say, but in the end, this is going to turn into a $10 million lawn care business that's beautiful, right? Or whatever it is.
That's right.
And so it's this weird blend of like not being pretending that the problems aren't there. So that's not what we mean by positivity. But what we are willing to say is that in the end, I'm going to be successful.
It's great. You know how many people have taught that idea? It's so core to the entrepreneurial spirit. You've heard it from, like Marie Forleo says, everything is figure outable. She wrote a whole book about that, which was a great book, by the way, which is, also something to think about if that doesn't hit for you, right? Marie Forleo. The other one that I've called back to you recently is Jen Sincero. She wrote a book called You Are a Badass. You're a Badass at Making Money, a couple different books like that. And she talks about it more like pushing yourself to being willing to like dance with it. And the phrase that she uses, let's just see. Let's just see. Let's just see. Let's play. Let's give it a go. Let's take a step. Let's move down that path. And then another fire is going to come up in front of you. It's like, all right, well, let's just see. Let's see if we can do that one.
Yeah.
It's like
I love the, I think it was actually said of Oprah. I'm not necessarily a big time Oprah fan. Some of you might be that were listening, big Oprah fans. I'm not necessarily, but I'm very envious of what she's built. Like she built what, $1 billion empire. But it was said of her that she was really, really patient in the long-term things. Like she'll gnaw at that bone forever.
Man.
But she was very impatient in the short-term things. Like the things I can control, I'm going to go take care of right now. And then things that, but I'm also willing to have this take 3 or 4 or 5 years for us to figure it out. And so I love that juxtaposition. And I think this is similar to this kind of idea of disciplined optimism, which is like, hey, I'm going to face what's in front of me right now, but I'm never going to let that sink my belief that if I continue to persevere, eventually I'm going to win the prize.
It's great.
That, like, if I start walking, I always tell people this, like, if you start walking from here to Chicago and you don't stop, eventually you make it to Chicago, right? Eventually you will get there. The only way we don't make it to Chicago is we stop walking. We give up. That's the only way. It's the only way we don't make it. As long as we're consistently taking one step in front of the other. Now, granted, we might run out of resources and food, and I suppose there are other ways. We got to have some sustainability there. But moral of the story is perseverance ends up being the thing that's most rewarded. It's not necessarily skill or talent. It's sometimes just sheer willingness to endure.
I mean, how many businesses have you come across that you, like, back to the picture of somebody walking from Arizona to Chicago and they're halfway down that path. They're starving, right? Like they're, what's the word? Emaciated. Is that the word? Mm-hmm. It's like just emaciated. They sweating, sunburn, like just looking like they're the hottest of messes.
How are you still going, man? Yeah.
How many entrepreneurs have you met at that point in the journey and you're thinking, whoa, dude, but you're still going at it?
Yeah. It's
amazing.
There's nothing, this is my favorite quote from Teddy Roosevelt. It's like, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out where the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood. And it's these folks that are like in the arena who are like pursuing it. And this is what allows you to pursue it, is this belief. And it may even seem to others kind of naive. It's like, what are you thinking? Like, the people around you are going, give up already, dude. Chicago's not that great. Like, just give up. But you kind of go, no, if I keep this up, eventually we're going to get there. And like a little shout out to all the wives of all the lawn care business owners who for years and years are like, when are we going to make money?
For sure.
And it's like, just hang on. Eventually we're going to get there. Eventually this is going to turn into a thing.
This is that one, I think it's a client of yours that we were talking about recently. It's like, Mama wants a car.
Yeah.
Yep. Mama's been wanting a car for some years. Like, Can we get her one?
Yeah.
Can we make that happen?
And so there's this kind of tenacious belief that in the end, it's all going to work out while being willing to face what's in front of us now. It's almost like positivity and disciplined optimism. One is in the moment. That's what I call positivity, my willingness to like look and see the good in what's going on around me. Doesn't mean ignoring the bad, but just seeing the good. And then the disciplined optimism is the long-term view. It's the willingness to say, even though I got kicked in the nuts one more time today, in the end, we're going to figure this out. And by the way, we could talk more about the reality of that. There are some pragmatic realities, but it's that mindset that allows us to stay in the game. Simon Sinek calls it the infinite game. And his argument is like, hey, the winners and losers in business. So I'll give you the whole story. So Simon Sinek calls it the infinite game versus a finite game. And a finite game has a specific beginning and specific end. We keep score. There are clear rules about who's the winner and who the loser are. Think football, finite game. Infinite game is one where there isn't a necessarily beginning. There isn't even really an end. And there isn't a scoreboard. It's just a matter of staying in the game. And so staying in the game is the question. And that's where, if you keep walking, if you keep just able to stay in the game long enough, that's your best chance of success. It's the companies that are around for 100 years that you're not surprised are really successful, right? All right. So number 1, positivity. Number 2, discipline, optimism. Number 3 is something that I call entrepreneurial bravado. So I'll tell a story on one of the clients that I coach. His name is Brent Moore. And I probably shouldn't give him his full name because I think you wouldn't mind. Because he's got a little entrepreneurial bravado in him. So I remember one day, Brent owns a commercial lawn care business out of Valdosta, Georgia, Outdoor Living Southeast. He's been on our podcast, so he might have told the story. But, and Brent one day came into our coaching session and said, "Hey, Dan, just want to let you know, we launched a new location." Now, you can imagine my shock as a fractional CEO, that this has happened. I was like,
nobody told me.
Yeah. When did we launch a new location? Usually that takes months of preparation and like, planning and organization and structure. And he's like, no, we just landed a contract. It's this big contract out of Tallahassee and
we're going to go do business in Tallahassee.
And we're in Tallahassee now. And he, I wish I could pull it up. He said some version of this to me. He said, Dan, bring it into the world. He sent this to me in text. Bring it into the world and then make it good.
Oh, that's great.
And now his team was like, what in the did you do? But there's something about, I don't even know there's something about this, this willingness just to dive in and figure it out. Yeah. And be able to make it seem as if, I've done this a million times.
There's also something so compelling about being around people like that. This is also one of the factors of what makes you a great visionary, I think, right? It's just being able to tell a story, see a vision, cast a vision in a way. It's like bravado is such a great word to capture it. They come with this energy of head up, chin up,
let's
chest
go,
puffed out.
Right?
No, we're in Tallahassee. And Dan on the other side of that conversation, like, whoa, dude, what?
Yep.
What are we doing? And it's just that energy that they have about it that is, I don't know, just makes it.
It may be we could call it courage is another word for it. But at the very center of leadership, I always tell people like, hey, what's your number one job as a leader is to set the vision. And because if I don't have a where I'm going, if I say, hey, follow me, where are we going? And I don't have a good answer for that. But there's something about that willingness to go first. The willingness to just be like, screw it, here we go. Right? It's the polar plunge where you're all standing around the pool in December and that one guy is like, I'm getting in, and he dives in, and then all of a sudden everyone else is like, I guess I could go too. Right? That's what leadership is a moment. Somebody calls it, it's like 5 seconds of insane courage.
Ooh,
where does that come from?
Great. I don't know.
Somebody else said it,
from.
so forgive me. I'll have to look it up.
That's great.
But there's an idea, right? Of like, hey, I'm just going to have some insane courage here for a minute and say yes to something I probably shouldn't. Now, I feel kind of like the parent of a teenager, and I'm like, okay, I told you to go on an adventure.
Yep.
Don't die. Because there's part of me that have also seen people have 10 seconds of insane courage that have caused them 10 years of heartache as a result of a very bad, unwise decision.
Yeah, I can list a handful that come to mind to me.
And so I would say add some wisdom to that entrepreneurial bravado and you got some real magic. But you got
to have some of it.
But
you got to have some.
And I can't deny it. And as much as I turn to Brent Moore and I'm like, dude, next time, just like, give us a little notice here. Like, let's be smart about this, because it isn't just entrepreneurial bravado. It's not just diving in, because otherwise it'd be foolhardy, and every brain concussed ex-football player would be a billionaire. Right? Whatever.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Like it requires us to have with that entrepreneurial bravado a little savvy.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like we've listed a few things now that are all like expansive and positive and big and forward thinking. And those are probably, I don't know if they're the most important factors, but you got to have that, and you got to have a lot of that. It's just like big, open, willing to try, optimistic. And then somehow on the other side of it, there's got to be something else, right? If you think about what's the next piece of all of that, the mindset that I would talk about that is most prevalent in the successful entrepreneurs that I know, it's also knowing when they don't know something. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, this is maybe the balancer to the entrepreneurial bravado, is this kind of opposite, which is kind of an extreme humility and a recognizing or honoring when I don't know what I don't, even recognizing I don't know what I don't know. Yeah.
One of the things that will come up when I'm meeting with a business owner for the first time that sometimes is a signal that I'm not sure if we're going to be successful together is when they don't know when they don't know, or an overly developed sense of, I got all of this.
I already figured it out. Yeah.
I got it figured out. I got an answer for that. This is good. That's great. For me. That, like, I'm making money. I'm good. Check, check, check. Yeah, I got vision. I got a mission. I got all the things. And it's also a bit like, sweet, then how can I help you today?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's got to be some room. You got to leave room for someone else to get in there, whoever it is on your team, whatever, to help you move the thing forward. You have to know when you've come up against the spot where you don't know.
Yeah. I thought when so I grew up, sort of poor, and my dad had a whole mindset about rich people, and it wasn't very positive, right? It was like rich people are abusing the poor people kind of attitude. And
yeah.
So when I started meeting people who had been successful, one of the things that surprised me is that they were the most humble and teachable people on the planet. I thought they were going to be kind of cocky and conceited and know-it-alls. It was actually the opposite. They were humble, curious, willing to hear from just about any source of if they could learn something from anyone, they're open to learning.
It's great.
And they were constantly seeking advice and counsel and help. And they had no ego connected to it. It was like, well, yeah, sure. I know that that's a 12-year-old dog, but I can learn from him. Right. It was like, they just didn't care. And I think that is one of the magical characteristics of those who make it. One of the things that always popped up for me is, this is going to sound really bad, but periodically I would judge people as not very talented when I was meeting them as entrepreneurs. And I won't say who they are. None of my current clients, by the way, if you're listening, I think you're all wonderfully talented. But I would kind of go, how did that guy make it? How did that guy get so successful? And almost always the answer was they just went and asked smarter people than them what they should do, and they just did it.
For sure. For sure. I tell you about my longest standing client that I've worked with, which, by the way, makes the point even more, what you were saying, that like they know when they don't know something and they're open to learn from people, and they're open to learn from all kinds of different people. I mean, she was ultimately the first person that ever said yes to working with me as a business coach. No idea what I was doing.
Speaking of entrepreneurial bravado, right? Hey, I'll be your business coach. Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. We knew each other. She had a faith in me that it would still be helpful somehow. And she knew that what we were going to talk about was something that she needed help with. And like, okay, yeah, Miranda, what do you got? What do you see that I don't see that I should go and work on here? Got any ideas for me? And that factor has enabled her and to be more successful than most of the business owners that I know. And she's low 30s. Listen to this. She has a retail store in my hometown in Dickinson, North Dakota, another brick and mortar in another small town in North Dakota, and an online store. And recently, as of last year, is doing like over 4 million. Just slanging clothes out of a small town in North Dakota.
Yeah.
And if she were here today, she would tell you one of the biggest things that made a difference in her being able to get there is by knowing when she doesn't know and hiring someone, doing the course, doing the research, listening to the podcast, whatever it is.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, right, the fact that you're on this podcast is an evidence you have a little bit of that in you where you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to listen and learn and grow. So congratulations. Keep that up. Be shameless. In our last podcast, you heard Will Hall talk about this idea where he was just like, if somebody says, hey, reach out if you want some help, I do. Over and over and over again until they tell me not to. And I think that's such an admirable characteristic. And I appreciate it. It's like, yes, go get help. And when you flip that on its head and you think about if someone were to come to you for help, how would you feel? Well, the answer is you feel great. You feel kind of honored and special, and it strokes your ego a little bit. But I'll tell you what, the people who are successful are the ones who are asking for help. There's the old saying that says, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And that is 100% true. 100% true.
I love it. I love it. I can hear some of my guys in the back of my mind saying the thing to me right now, like, land the plane, Miranda. What do I got to go do? What should we go do about that? Right? I mean, on one side, it's like, hey, if you identify with these things, these mindsets, hopefully this like added some fuel to your fire.
Yeah. Good on you.
Sometimes you need that.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Don't, right? No shame over the top positivity, no shame in a little entrepreneurial bravado, no shame in asking for help and seeking out answers in people who are smarter than you. Like all of those things, you should not only, because I do think people who are this way feel a little weird.
Yeah.
I think they feel out of place. And I'm just saying, if you feel out of place, it's because everyone else needs to be like you, not the other way around.
Great. Great.
right? And it's kind of why, like, my partner Aaron and I were both like, I'm not very good at parties because I don't know how to talk to people who aren't entrepreneurs. I don't know how to talk to people who aren't doing it this way. I don't know how to talk to people who don't see the world in a positive way that has full of endless possibilities, and we can go create whatever we want, right? Like, it's hard to talk to people who aren't following this kind of mindset, right?
Yeah, it's great. So good.
By the way, Matt Damon in the movie we bought a zoo movie.
We bought a zoo. I haven't seen it, but
it's a great movie, by the way, for entrepreneurs. It's really good. Yeah, okay. Matt Damon.
All right.
He hit the quote, actually, as I looked it up. He says, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage, just literally 20 seconds of embarrassing bravery, and I promise you something great will come of it. If that isn't entrepreneurial bravado, I don't know what is. It's like 20 seconds of embarrassing bravery. All right. Good. Thanks, Matt Damon. Okay. So like you said, land the plane. So if I were in a spot where I was like, okay, I get it. I believe you. I think that these characteristics, these attributes, the more that I kind of embrace and embody these mindsets, the better my illusion will be, and the more it will lead to the success that I'm looking for. What do we do about it? Coach me through this, Miranda. Like how do I become more self-aware of these things? Like what do I do?
Yeah, that's the thing. So, I also want to question anybody who listens to this as an entrepreneur, and they're like, check, 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 give myself gold stars in every way, from every angle. I want to push on that person a little bit. If you're listening to this and you're like, I got this, I'm golden, right?
Yep.
Nothing to be adjusted over here.
See item 4 on the list.
Yeah.
Which is humility, right?
Yes, exactly. But the first thing I would do is take an honest assessment of yourself. Not only of yourself, sometimes that can be tricky, right? It's hard to see the label from within the jar, right? I don't know who told me that for the first time, but that phrase hits over and over again. Sometimes you just don't even know what world you're living in, what subconscious programming is directing the ship. So take an honest assessment. And if it's challenging, or you just don't like the idea of doing a self-assessment, I would assess the people that you're spending the most time with, the messaging that you love, the influencers that you like, or the things that grab your attention when you're scrolling, the books that you lean into, or the podcasts, and what's the general energy there? Is your brain getting to, even like your family sometimes will be giving you this programming that leads you down a certain path. This one is kind of a bummer when you have David Gilliland calls somebody on your team who is maybe not the right fit. Sometimes he'll call them a lovable misfit. I see that people on your team that are a lovable misfit, it's like, but we love her. She's been doing our books for 10 years. And we know she doesn't really know what she's doing, and she doesn't give us reports on time, but she's my mom's friend, and she's like my second mom. And I just love her so much, right? Sometimes the people, even within our business, can sometimes be the factor that is feeding in this sort of programming that isn't serving you. Yep. And taking an assessment of things that are outside you sometimes can be a more approachable way to really start to understand how you're showing up in the world. So first step, the world would be a
reflection of you then, where you would.
That's right.
The world you've created is maybe a reflection of some of the mindsets and attitudes that you're facing.
It's great.
I think that's probably pretty wise. And it's not necessarily true, because I know some great mindset people who have some people on their team that they're kind of are negative, but they recognize it and they're aware of it. The second thing that I'd probably add to the what do I do about it mindset is whatever you can do to be around and and douse yourself in ideas that you think are consistent with success. So the greatest entrepreneurs in part are great learners, but they're also learners pretty constantly, right? So they turn off the sports talk radio or the politics radio, and they turn on great podcasts and great thinkers and audiobooks and other great minds that are kind of dosing their brains with things that work and lead to success. And so they kind of brainwash themselves into thinking like great leaders, right? That's one of the reasons we have this podcast, right? Lawn Care Guys Learn to Be Leaders, is to try to just kind of brainwash your brain into understanding and believing what it means to be a great CEO.
It's great. So many ways that you can do that these days. AI, ChatGPT, right?
It's everywhere. But surround yourself for hours and hours a day with people who are, again, elevated, whether it's joining mastermind groups, getting a coach like Miranda to like talk you through it, whatever it is. And then finally, number 3 is there's going to be a moment where you're just going to have to make a choice to think and operate differently. So I had a moment where I decided I was going to get off sugar because I watched this lecture on how bad sugar was for you. And literally that day I was like, all right, I need to change my mind about how I feel about sugar, because I've always had a big sweet tooth. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to pretend not to like sugar for a while. and I would see donuts and I'd be like, gross. I don't like donuts. Yeah. Which wasn't true. And you can look at me and see that I didn't last very long. But at the end of the day, like over time, for at least a period, it kind of did that. That was the effect where I started to be able to change my mind. And at first it felt a little hypocritical, but your brain's like, that's not what you actually think.
Yeah.
And my point is that what we actually think was a choice along the way, and we can choose to think differently about it. And so if you are kind of the person who's like, I'm sort of a pessimistic person, that's just who I am. No, you're not. All right. Like that's not who you are. It is how your brain is wired at the moment, but we can rewire the brain to think differently. And so in order for us to do some rewiring, we have to do something that will be non-native to our brains. And we have to forge literally new pathways in our brains. And when we first do that, your brain kind of gets lazy on you and it goes, no, that's not how we think about that thing. We think about it this way that's really comfortable and easy. And so you have to literally forge new paths. It feels like you're being hypocritical or you're not telling the truth to yourself. But what it actually is you're just forging a new path, a new way of thinking about things, whether it's thinking about yourself, thinking about your business, thinking about the people in your business. And so you have to kind of fake it for a little while until you make it.
So good. Told you before, Dan, one of my favorite authors is a guy named Vishen Lakhiani. He's got a business called Mind Valley, and one of my favorite personal development books called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And he uses, I'm going to forget exactly what he calls it, but it's like something about powerful questions. He advocates for that tool rather than like a mantra where you like are telling yourself something over and over again. He teaches a practice of asking yourself a question, like, how do you know it's true? And I think he specifically says to like ask you, like write it down and meditate on it before you go to sleep. And then your subconscious does the work while you're sleeping. So it could be some version of that, like with the sugar, could be like, how do I know I don't even care about sugar anymore? How do I know that's true?
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's like beneath the surface, your brain does the work to answer that for you.
Yeah. It should be like, here's the thing that I keep landing on when I think about, is it true that if I change myself, that my business would get dramatically better? Like, is that true? And by the way, I think it lags. Like if I change myself today, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, my business will be different. So it's not immediate. So there's some immediate benefits, but the real effects kind of lag. And how do I know that if I change myself, we're going to see that difference in the business? And all you have to do is say, if I hired one of the great CEOs to come in and run my business, would it be better?
It's great.
And it's like, yeah,
Of course.
it would 100% be better for a lot of reasons, right? Because they'd have skill sets that we don't have, but moral of the story is, like, we really are the bottlenecks in the business. And oftentimes the bottlenecks in us are the limiting beliefs that get in the way of our ability to move forward. And
Right.
it does sound kind of woo-woo and lacks concrete, but the challenge we have for you today is to spend time, just poke around a little bit and see if there's something in you that is the bottleneck's bottleneck that's preventing you from going, hey, how do we open this thing up in a better way? And whether it's maybe a little dose of negativity, if it's something where we kind of are like afraid of success, or we're afraid of getting to that next level, or we're not quite sure this is all going to work out, or maybe it's a little bit of fear getting in the way, my lack of willingness just to have that 20 seconds of insane courage, or maybe it's my pride, my ego is getting in the way and I'm not willing to ask for help when I need it. Whatever it is, right? If we can remove the bottleneck, all of a sudden things can get very expansive, and it won't happen right away, but we hope it happens for you. So thank you for listening to the Lawn Care CEO podcast. Thank you, Miranda. And as always, go do more good.